Paige Bueckers walked into Unrivaled looking exactly like someone on the rise. She wasn't coming in as a college prospect anymore or as a name built only on hype. She arrived with the weight and glow of a standout rookie season with the Dallas Wings behind her, and people were watching closely to see what she would do next. In Dallas, she didn't play like a newcomer who needed training wheels. She played like someone who had been in the WNBA for years. Her composure, the way she made reads out of pick and rolls, her ability to slide between scoring and facilitating depending on what the game demanded, that made her one of the most reliable young guards in the league right out of the gate. Coaches trusted her, teammates leaned on her. Fans quickly saw that her reputation from UConn wasn't just built on buzz, it translated. So when Unrivaled launched and Paige showed up on a Breeze BC roster, it immediately added weight to the league's debut. This wasn't just a gym run for fringe players. When someone of her stature chooses to spend her offseason in a competition like this, it signals that what's happening here matters. It also raises the bar. You're not just seeing prospects and role players, you're seeing young stars testing themselves in a new, unforgiving format. And even with everything she'd already accomplished, the adjustment was real the second she hit the floor. From her first minutes with Breeze BC, you could sense how different Unrivaled felt compared to traditional WNBA action. The court looked almost bigger, even though the dimensions are familiar. With fewer players on the floor, there's just so much more space to cover. Every step covers more ground. Every misstep opens up a lane. You don't have a weak side defender ready to slide over and bail you out if you get beat at the point of attack. The physicality was impossible to ignore. The WNBA is already one of the most physical basketball leagues in the world. Anybody who's watched full playoff series knows that. But in Unrivaled, the collisions felt amplified. Screens weren't delicate. Drives were strong. Everyone out there understood that with so few bodies on the floor, any contact that creates a tiny advantage turns into a huge one. You couldn't float through a possession. You either met force with force or you got knocked off balance. On top of that, the responsibility felt absolute. In a 5-on-5 game, even star guards can sometimes blend into the flow for a few trips and let someone else initiate. There's room to hide on a possession or two, regroup, then re-engage. In this format, that option basically doesn't exist. If you check out mentally, everyone in the gym sees it. If you're even half a step late closing out or tagging your matchup, there's no backline to patch it over. It's on you. After her debut, Paige sat down with Candace Parker, and the way she talked about all of this was incredibly straightforward. Instead of trying to dance around the difficulties, she went right to the core of what makes Unrivaled different. For her, it wasn't about the pace or the scoring style as much as what the league demands from your body and your mind. She said, "Yeah, I think the physicality won. We all know that the W is physical, but Unrivaled, I feel, is even more physical than that. And then not being able to have help side, you're basically on an island. So at points, you're gonna have to be okay with getting cooked." That's a very honest thing for someone at her level to admit. Most stars, even young ones, don't like to publicly acknowledge the idea of being okay with getting cooked. But that sentence cuts right to the truth of what this league is. You are simply not going to win every one-on-one battle when you're facing elite offensive talent in wide open space, over and over, with no extra defenders sliding in from the corner to save you. You have to go into it understanding that sometimes you'll get beat badly, and your pride has to be strong enough to take that hit, regroup, and compete on the next possession. That's the reality that defines everyday life in Unrivaled. With only 3 players on the floor, it becomes the purest version of no-hiding basketball. Defensive assignments aren't complicated. Everyone knows exactly who they're responsible for. That also means mismatches don't take long to surface. If a team sees a slower defender, a size edge, a quickness edge, anything they can exploit, they go at it immediately. The entire structure favors players who are aggressive and completely confident. If you hesitate on offense, the space you had vanishes. If you second-guess your first step on defense, the ball handler is already at your hip and turning the corner. The league exposes any uncertainty and magnifies it. In that sense, defense becomes something much more personal. It's not just, did we execute the scheme? It's, did you stand your ground in that matchup, or did you fold? Paige talked about that mindset too. She went on to explain how in a setup like this, pride isn't an option. It's a tool you need every time you have to guard someone in space. She said, wear defense with pride and try to just defend on the island and guard your yard and keep people in front of you. But at the same time, these are the best women in the world and you're competing against them, so that's a lot different for sure. That's a perfect description of the balance in Unrivaled. On one side, you have to treat every stop like a point of personal honor, guard your yard, take it seriously, accept the idea that you have to play with defensive pride, not just offensive flair. On the other side, you have to remember who you're dealing with. These aren't random pickup players. These are WNBA stars, international pros, and some of the top players on the planet. If they get past you, it's not always because you did something wrong, it's because they're that good. For a young guard like Bueckers, that blend of humility and competitiveness is exactly what can take her from really talented rookie to complete professional. You learn very quickly that your name doesn't stop anyone from attacking you. Your college accolades don't mean anything on that island. Your reputation won't rotate over and contest a shot. Only your feet, your hands, your mindset, and your conditioning will. While all of this is unfolding on the floor, the timing of Unrivaled's debut gives it an extra layer of significance. This isn't happening in a calm, quiet off-season. It's arriving at the exact moment when women's basketball is dealing with major issues that go beyond who scored how many points. Right now, negotiations between the WNBA and the Players Union, the WNBPA, have stalled. There's a firm date looming, January 9th, and from the outside, it doesn't look like there's been much progress since December. The topics at stake aren't minor details. Player compensation, how heavy the workload should be across a year, and what kind of long-term security players can realistically count on are all sitting unresolved. These are questions that affect whether players feel like they have to go overseas to make ends meet. They affect how many months of the year they're putting their bodies through maximum strain. They affect whether staying in the league long-term feels sustainable or like a constant risk without enough reward. That uncertainty adds pressure and a bit of edge to everything happening around the women's game right now. Unrivaled was created right in the middle of that environment. It's not an accident. Brianna Stewart and Nafisa Collier didn't launch this league in a vacuum. They built it specifically with players' interests at the center. Instead of sticking to the old model where athletes have very little power over how something is structured, Unrivaled was designed to flip that. It emphasizes investment, visibility, and giving players a real sense of control over their competitive environment.
When Collier spoke publicly recently and said players are standing strong as the negotiations continue, it tied directly into the presence of this new league. That phrase tells you that the players know their worth, they're organized, and they're not going to fold just to get something done quickly. Having Unrivaled in the background reinforces that stance. It shows that athletes are willing to explore new avenues, new formats, and new business models to improve their situation, not just wait for someone else to fix it. For Paige Bueckers, though, Unrivaled doesn't come across as a protest move or a sign that she's trying to escape the WNBA system. She's never presented it as a replacement. Instead, it feels like she sees it as a complementary opportunity, another lane to grow her game and test herself in a way that regular 5-on-5 can't always provide. This compressed format has a way of sharpening your weaknesses instantly. If your footwork on defense is even slightly off, someone goes by you. If your closeouts aren't disciplined, you're giving up threes in bunches. If you're not decisive with the ball, you're dribbling into traps in too much open space and wasting possessions. Every trip down the floor becomes a small exam, and you get your grade immediately. That kind of feedback loop can be brutal, but it's also incredibly valuable. For a guard still early in her professional path, there's no better teacher than repeated exposure like this. You can't hide behind a deep rotation. You can't blend into a set offense and just do the minimum. You are asked to create, to defend, to read, and to react constantly. That trains your mind to stay switched on in a way that will absolutely carry back into WNBA regular season games. It also builds a tougher skin. When Paige says you have to be okay with getting cooked at times, she's talking about more than just clips on social media. She's talking about being secure enough in your own progress that one bad possession or even a rough stretch doesn't make you unravel. You take the hit, you recognize who you're up against, and then you get right back into your stance. That kind of mental resilience is priceless for any player who wants to be a star in a league as demanding as the WNBA. There's also the offensive side. Playing in space like this forces you to make quicker, bolder decisions. You see how defenders respond when you attack their front foot. You learn which moves hold up when the help isn't there to clog the driving lane. You test your handle, your pull-up, your finishing package, all under pressure from defenders who know exactly what you want to do and are good enough to take it away. For someone like Paige, whose game has always been built on a blend of IQ, skill, and feel, this type of environment is perfect. It asks her to layer aggression and physicality on top of the finesse, not just seeing the pass, but being willing to take the bump and finish at the rim. Not just reading the defender, but dominating the matchup possession after possession. Stepping back and looking at the bigger picture, Unrivaled arriving now, with high-level players like Bueckers jumping in, sends a very clear message about where women's basketball is heading. Players are not waiting around quietly anymore. They're building new platforms, demanding better conditions, and using every competitive environment available to them to grow. Paige Bueckers playing for Breeze BC, talking openly about how difficult it is defensively, admitting the physical toll, and still locking in and competing. That fits right into this new era. It shows fans that even the most talented young guards in the WNBA can be pushed, can be challenged in new ways, and can respond without shying away from the reality. It also makes the coming months even more fascinating. With the January 9th deadline hanging over WNBA and WNBPA talks, everyone is watching to see what kind of agreement emerges and how it shapes the future of the league. At the same time, Unrivaled is gaining momentum, showcasing elite talent in a format that spotlights individual toughness and skill like never before. For Paige, this league is a high-pressure training ground, a stage, and a test all at once. It doesn't replace what she's doing with the Dallas Wings. It adds to it. It gives her another space to refine the parts of her game that don't always get exposed in a traditional 5-on-5 context. And it gives fans a closer look at just how demanding this level of basketball really is, possession by possession. So the next time you see a highlight of Paige Bueckers in Unrivaled, remember everything sitting behind that one clip: the physical battles, the isolation defense with no help, the pride in trying to guard your yard, the willingness to sometimes get beat and still come back stronger, and the larger backdrop of a women's game that is fighting for more control, more respect, and more options. Let me know how you're viewing all of this. Do you think Unrivaled is the kind of league that can change how players develop and how fans experience women's basketball? How do you see this helping someone like Paige as she continues her WNBA career with the Dallas Wings? And with all the tension around negotiations off the court, what kind of future do you think players are building for themselves through leagues like this? Share your thoughts below and keep watching, because what's happening with Paige, Unrivaled, and the wider women's game right now feels like the beginning of a very important new chapter.